You can't do that.
Can't do.
Cannot. Stamped it.
Can't do. Double stamped it. No erases.
Cannot. Triple stamped it. No erases. Touch blue, make it true.
You can't triple stamp a double stamp. You can't triple stamp a double stamp, Lloyd. You can't triple stamp a double stamp.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Lord of the Realms podcast. Today we talk about tournament etiquette. Some of us need some practice on that, including me. Like us on Facebook, Lord of the Realms podcast. We also have a Patreon. Give us a shout out. Bye. We are back with another episode. We got the Demon Prince of Rad with us today, Benjamin Cornelius.
Here I am, motherfuckers.
And we got Buck, the doctor.
What up, nerds?
And no Eric today. He bitched out and took a flight somewhere.
What a jerk.
I know, right?
God.
Priorities and shit.
Heading for glory, that guy.
Mm-hmm.
Or a glory hole somewhere. Something.
Oh.
So, the Winter War happened last weekend.
Yeah, it did.
I didn't get to go.
I know. Where the
Very
fuck,
sad.
dude? Where were you?
I had to work first thing in the morning, so I couldn't make it. Like a loser. Should have just quit.
Work, schmwork.
But Ben and Eric went, so Ben will tell us about it.
Yeah, Eric, go ahead. Oh, man. It was a fun tournament, man. There was, I think, 16 people altogether. Here, let me see. Can I still pull up the stats? I don't have the... I'm not actually a subscriber to Best Coast Bearings, so I don't know if my stuff
I
still
think
shows.
go away Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah. I'll check on it here. Make some good radio. Nope, it's gone. Well, I'll just talk about it from memory. It was an early morning, leaving from Oklahoma at 6:30. Let's see. I rode up with a new guy, Mate Lucas, who you might have seen on some of the, if you're in the Oklahoma Facebook groups, selling and trading and changing armies every 5 days.
It's like 5 minutes.
He's already.
Daily.
I got that Wrath and Rapture box he won already.
Oh, did you? Did you trade
Yeah.
him?
Yeah, I traded him much of my
That's-
Stormcast.
That's funny. Alex was trying to make a deal with him, but he was like, but I don't want to wait till like the next time he shows up to get my stuff. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, but it's a pretty good deal what he's giving you. So I think it's kind of what you were talking. What do you give him? 2 Soul Wars box?
Yeah, 2 Soul Wars boxes, Gabriel Shearheart, and enough of the Evocators to make 2 units of 10, or 2 units of 5, sorry.
Oh, nice.
But he also gave me a Chaos Gargant Giant,
Oh, that's fun.
so it was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, he found out real quickly how hard it is to play Iron Jaws, I think.
Yeah,
As a new player,
you got to be really good at movement.
Yeah, and he came in DFL, and that's how he got that Wrath and Rapture.
Nice.
So that was good on him, He was happy. I mean, first tournament he goes to. I mean, he had never played a 2,000 point game until that day.
Yeah, right.
We treat our new players really kindly around here.
Yeah, we
or veterans who are good at tanking.
Yeah. Because I mean that first Realm of Rad I gave out, I forget what the new guy got, or like it was something good.
I think it was a Soul Wars box.
Yeah, I think it was too. That's pretty awesome. I need to start playing in my tournament so I can win some shit.
Yeah, right.
Speaking of winning, I won Best Painted.
Nice.
Got $65 in store credit. So
Is that for your right now?
Did you get
yeah.
Duncan handies with that as well?
No, those are thrown about so much that they're not worth shit. So
I figured since you're in Wichita, that's the local currency.
you kind of get one on the way in. But you have to pay for it because it cost me $2.50 just to cross the border.
Ugh.
But Yeah, so I won Best Painted. I picked me up a box of Troggoths.
Nice.
Yeah, I was like, it's so funny because my hobby has changed so much as I've gotten older that I don't like. I was sitting there with $65 in the game store going, I don't really have anything on my list that I want to buy.
Right.
So because I buy, build, and paint an army. So it's just like, I plan on playing my Ideneth this year. So I was like, what would be fun to paint? So I picked up those Troggoths and the Stone Troll guys.
Nice.
So those would be fun to put together and paint.
Yeah, you're turning in like the rest of us who like buy armies and 2 or 3 every year and then sell half of them.
Yeah. Come on, join us there, Ben.
Dude, I did it for so long. I have so much 40K stuff sitting in a closet that I never play. That I'm always like, should I sell some of this? Nah, I'll keep it. But so yeah, the tournament it went really well. Seemed like it went smoothly. There was a few salty moments, I think, for some people, but I think overall everyone was really happy. There was a bunch of Sparkle Motion players showed up.
Yeah, they're a top team on our Midwest Masters event right now.
I know they're so proud of themselves. We need to take them down a notch.
Yeah, they're like double Fly Monkeys points right now. So
yeah,
and then,
we didn't have the best showing.
No, we'll get there.
Eric did the best out of us, I think. It's so funny because ITC points, the winners of the tournament doesn't really show like. I wish there was more of a strength of schedule. I don't know how you would do that, but it's like, man, going into a tournament, it's so much hinges upon you, like your matchups, right?
Right.
I mean, my first round, Chris Christian and me played, and Chris is fairly new to the game, and he's like got his Night Haunt stuff together. He's been talking to Alex. He's getting better, but he was not ready for what my list does, And
I forgot that had been your worst matchup because it's like ignores Rend, ton of models.
Yeah, but the thing is, when stuff ignores Rend, my Ishling, I put out so many attacks anyway, but my Ishling guard, they ignore Rend too. So I just threw those into some Blade Geist, and it's like, oh yeah, if you don't get the charge, those Blade Geists aren't as good. I don't know exactly all the rules, but I tore them up. So, and I've also like heard Alex talk enough, and we talked about Night Haunt enough on this podcast that I knew target priorities, and I just kind of picked them apart, So that was helpful. I don't know how I would do against Alex, who's like a really top Night Haunt player, but against a new guy.
He's like a top general guy. He's 40K AOS. It don't matter.
Yeah, he's a really good player in general, but but with Night Haunt though, I mean, I think he probably it would be much harder fight, So I Chris, I hope he didn't have I mean, he was happy, and he messaged me the next day. He was like, "Wow, that was a crazy game." He's like, "I got a lot to learn." There was a moment in the game his Blade Geist charged me and got the 10 on my king, and he rolled 19 wounds, and I saved 18 of them.
Oh god!
And I was like, I had a 3-up save. Well, yeah, because I was a 2-up save. I was in cover, so I had a 3-up save, and I rolled 18 threes or better. And I was like, and I was already winning, and I was just like, "Oh, I'm sorry, dude. I'm really here just to crush your soul if you hadn't noticed." But so that was my first game. Went really well. Wiped the board. My second game was against Drew Alexander. And that game was one of the closest games of Warhammer I've ever fought. It came down. If I would have rolled 2 dice differently, I would have won that game.
Wow. That's how kind of ours was before that, too.
Yeah. So one of them was a Arcane Bolt that I rolled 1 mortal wound on. That if I would have rolled 2, it would have killed his dogs, and I would have taken the objective. And then the other one was the very last roll of the game. I rolled Battle Shock, and I needed to roll a 1, 2, or 3, and I rolled a 6, but my eels get to reroll, so I rolled it again, and I rolled a 4.
Oh.
And my guy went away, and he wins.
Oh.
So I barely lost that game, and then I was so worn out after that game, and I went into round 3 and played Daylon. So it was Ideneth versus Ideneth, and man, I was beat. I was just like, I don't want to play this freaking game. And he's hyped because we're on table 3. You know, he's hyped. So I'm trying my hardest to give him a good game because I don't want to just tank it. And motherfucking Bam walks up and he's like, hey, check this out. And he puts a cigar in my pocket. And I'm like, dude. And then he goes and stands on the other side of the door, like right beside me. And he's smoking a cigar outside. And I'm like, I don't want to play this game. I just want to quit. But I'm like, oh, I'll do it anyway. And it was the mission. I forget the name of the mission, but the 3 objectives. Oh, shifting objectives. So the 3 objectives are in the middle.
Yeah.
And he got first turn and jumped all his stuff on there. And I was just like, I'm going to have to think a lot to win this game. I just don't have it in me. So we ended up just crowded in the middle, just swinging at each other. And he had the better luck in it, and he took the game. So Drew ended up first place, and who was in second? Oh, a Fire Slayer player from Kansas City won second place. The Kansas City two guys from Kansas City came down. That was awesome.
Yeah, it is
and
awesome. One Kingsman came down too.
Yeah. Who was the Kingsman? Oh, it was he played the what was he playing? Seraphon, right?
I believe No, he was playing. The one guy who got top was playing Fire Slayers, and the Kingsman was playing. Oh, I have it up here. Hold on.
Well, I don't know if it's right in the app, but go ahead. The other, I think the other guy from Kansas City was playing. But
James Valdez, he was playing Beast Claw Raiders. It says.
Yeah, that's not right. He didn't play Beast Claw. No one played Beast Claw at that tournament. But anyway, so Drew got first, which he was pumped about because he came into monkey territory and took it all. And then the Kansas City guy with the Fire Slayers came in second, which was a really close game against Eric and him. Mm-hmm. And Eric was playing his new Gabos, you know, and he was super happy with how they were performing for like a thrown together list. He was like, this is what I got built. And he was like, this army is going to be insane.
Yeah, right.
Once he owns it.
What he won his first 2 games and then barely lost that last one.
Barely lost that last one. Yeah, that's what I mean by like not really getting a full story by just seeing who won, you know? Because he ended up like, what, 6th or 7th?
Yeah. Well, I think that's why overseas they do only battle points. Like, no, if you win or not, it's like, here's your battle points. They carry over each game. So even if you won 2 games and you scored really low, you could get, middle of the pack.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's interesting.
So guys like me who like submarine everybody would not do very well. But guys who want to score a bunch, they'll do well in battle points.
Yeah, that'd be fun to run a couple that way and see how the meta shifts up. Mm-hmm. And then from there, I'm not really sure how it all shook out, but Dylan was third. So Dylan got third place, man, and he's a new player, you know. He's learning a lot. He's pretty young too, so I think he's excited to learn and excited to play more competitively. It's such a different game for people, I think, who have been playing in the store, playing in their own like isolated meta. Mm-hmm. And, and against guys who maybe not all, I know not all of them are super competitive, and they're just trying to learn the game and play the game and have fun with their friends, and haven't come up against someone who's going to call them on some shit, Right. So like in Dylan and I's game, there was a moment where he, Ideneth gets with the Soul Scryer, you get to set up your models at the end of your movement phase. You set up your model 6 inches from a table edge and 9 inches away from something. So, like, at the beginning of his movement phase, he takes all his eels and puts them in the backfield. And I said, well, was that the end of your movement phase? And he said, what? And I was like, well, I mean, the rule says at the end of your movement phase, your stuff comes on. So I'm taking that as you're ending your movement. And I was just fucking with him because I knew he wasn't thinking about that. But, he's like, are you going to call me on that? And I was like, Dylan, I like you. And you're a super nice guy. And I'm not going to call you on that. But just know, at a top table where it's like the stakes are on the line and this is it, there's some guys that are going to call you on that shit. And
oh yeah, for sure.
I know, that's going to be a salty fucking moment for you because you just like totally tanked a game on one thing, on a mistake. But it's the rules are, the rules are the rules. And it's like, at what point do we bend them, And then because it comes a different game. So we just had a conversation about it, and I was, I wasn't going to call him on that shit. Obviously, it was also, I was tired of playing. But
they're just, fuck up my shit, I want to go.
Right. Kill it all. No, it was, but, it was one of those moments where I was like, all right, dude, you got to tighten up. And there's some other things, as a new player, I think he understands. Like, we had a conversation, and we talked tonight, too, because what we're going to talk about tonight is tournament etiquette. And we were just talking about, like, I actually messaged Drew about some things as well, because I was just like, Dylan specifically, I was telling him, like, your movement, you need to tighten up your movement. You need to tighten up how you play the game, because when you're moving stuff and you're trying to decide, but you move one model and then you move it back and then you move it and you move it back, like, you can't do that shit in a tournament.
Right.
Because you're not moving it exactly where it was. And I know that, we all probably fudge an inch or two here and there. You know what I mean? Like, there's mistakes are going to be made. And I'm sure, especially if you, like, look back on my Twitch game, it's like whoever's watching can probably see all the mistakes I did. But, and that's, kind of the danger of broadcasting playing, right? Is that
right.
We can all see the shit, but
I mean, unless you have like a judge watching your game the whole time, I mean, you're gonna have mistakes and no one's gonna catch it. And that's the part that really sucks about, going over the rules after you're done playing and go, oh man, this guy fucked me, but he might not have really meant to. It was an accident. I mean, it happens, but long as
and I don't think you were, moving models with your water glass or whatever happened over in, was that London GT that happened?
Yeah, no, that's some sorry
that's
shit.
Different. There's a difference, and I think a lot of the, everybody who starts playing the game goes through that stuff. They skip steps, they forget to do things, they do things too early, and most of it is just an innocent mistake. And you mention it, they correct it. It's not a big deal.
Right.
My issue is when it's somebody who's known to do it and they continually try to do it to you. That's different.
Sure. No, and I think there's a blatant difference between, like, fragrant frowsh, purposefully doing something to cheat, right? Because if you get caught purposely cheating in any of our tournaments, you're done. Like, you're not coming back to our fucking tournament. Like, we got to protect the people who are there to have fun and who are there to play solid games of Warhammer. And it's like, if you're going to bring that kind of shit to my event, then you're going home. Like, we're done for the day. And, you might get a warning the first time, and you can come back to the next event. But if you get caught twice, depending on how, abusive it was in the cheating, but I'm just not standing for that shit. You know what I mean?
I mean, like, people have accidents all the time where they misread the rules, but long as I think the point people need to make is, like, if they feel like they're cheated, they should go to that person and be like, hey, this happened. I feel cheated. Well, and you guys should talk about it.
That's the conversation Drew and I had tonight. Was in our game, there was a moment where this isn't cheating by any stretch of the matter. But he said, I'm going to run these dogs. And he rolled the die, didn't like the die roll, So he used a command point, and then he moved one model, and then measured everything around it from that model and was like, oh, I'm not going to be able to capture that objective. Moved the model back and said, I'm not going to run. And I watched the live stream of it just to kind of see how we both reacted to it.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, you really going to take backsies there, bro? Was my response. You really going to take backsies that move or that run roll? And he's like, yeah, what do we, and I think his response was a little snarky, but we were being snarky back and forth. So it was like, you really going to call me on that shit or something,
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, so then on the stream, you can see me, I'm looking through the rules because I'm trying to see what it says about running, like when you decide to run and all that. And it's kind of fuzzy, like in the rule. I don't remember exactly what it said. I should have looked it up tonight, but it's kind of fuzzy in the rule. So I didn't feel like it was like just this static, this is the order of operations. So I should call a TO and make a deal of it.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that would have changed the game much anyway, but it was one of those moments where I was all of a sudden in my head, like, should I call this dude on this shit or should I not? I mean, is it a problem? Is this a fucking thing I need to deal with? Like, so all of a sudden I'm out of the fucking game trying to figure out the rule. And so that was like a moment for me where I was like, and I love Drew. Like, we've played multiple times, like, and that's why I messaged him tonight, because I was like, I don't want you to hear this podcast and then think I'm just ragging on you and thinking that you're a fucking dirty cheater. I'm going to talk about this. Just wanted to let you know, because I'm using his name and all that shit.
And there's something too that, not saying this is what he was doing, because I briefly met him at your tournament in early January, and I don't think it's anything in the realm of what he was doing. But there are people out there who use that as a tactic to purposely get you off your game, get you trying to figure out what's going on, and make you look through the book. And it takes your mind off the game, and it also takes your eyes off the table. And I've run across those players in 40K tournaments. And
I played one of those players in our local meta in 40K when I first moved here. I know that's his tactic, and I called the fucking TO over. But then I was so in my head, I probably lost the game because he probably won. Like he did it. He used his tactic, and that worked for him. But that's some bullshit, man. It's like, and I get it. Like, it's competitive. It's weird because is that really a tactic that should be used? Like, in poker, you would say that's perfectly fine, right? Like, that's what you're like. Part of the game is bluffing and trying to fuck with your opponent's head.
I mean, in a way, but there's also, you got to be a good sport. I mean, I don't care how competitive you are. You got to be a good sport about it. Like when I have those, I don't want to ever call a TO over. My usually thing with my opponent, I'll be like, hey, you want to roll off for this to see who gets it if we both don't know? Like I did that with my game with Jeff. I mean, he was getting pretty salty in our game. We're getting salty back and forth because it was, second round and we both wanted to win. But it was like, I think I forgot, what was it? He forgot to do something. I was like, man, just roll it off and we'll decide then. You get high, you can do it. Low, you can't. And he did. And I forgot to call my shots with Marathi. I was doing all my shots. I was like, oh, I forgot to call this, but I was going to do this. He's like, you mind if I roll off, or if you don't want to do it? I left it up to him. It was his choice. He's like, no, man, let's just roll off. If you let me roll off, and I rolled high and I got it.
Right.
It's about, communicating with your opponent and be like, hey, can I do this? I'm sorry. If you don't want me to, it's totally fine.
Yeah.
So.
And that's going to relieve 95% of the issues. It's just when you come across that one person, that's when that's not going to work. But I mean, I've had the same experience with people. I try to roll off and try to keep the TOs out of it, because generally they're probably busy dealing with something even crazier. And so unless it's a really insane situation, just work with your opponent. I mean, you both want to win. You both want to have a fun game. And waiting for a TO to come over, wasting, 15, 20 minutes trying to get a ruling and a judgment, that cuts out of your game. And potentially the points you could be making, to boost yourself up. So, I always just try to, talk to your opponent and see if you can't get it settled between the two. And if you can't, then that's what the TO's for.
Right.
Yeah, and don't be afraid to call a TO if it feels serious. Like especially like if it's a clutch game. I mean, that's why we're there, right? We're there to solve that issue, to keep the games moving. And that's why I usually hang around the higher tables, because I know more is on the line, and I try to pay attention. Like at my events, I'm trying to pay attention to what games are going to be probably the deciding games. Because I guarantee you that game 2 was the deciding game of the tournament. I mean, I'm sure Drew's last game was hard too, but for me, I feel like that was the game. That was top table right there. It's like at Slobberknocker, I played Mike V at it was round 4. That game decided the tournament,
Right.
And it was a tight game, and it was amazing, but it was, it came down to one of those moments where I forgot to do something. And he waited and let me do it, and I was like, fair enough, bro. I fucked up. And I tend to like want to learn from those moments. It's like I don't take backseat stuff too often, unless my opponent is just like, no, that was obviously a mistake. Like, go ahead. Like, just before that, what I was talking about with Drew, just before that movement, it's funny because I went back and watched my game, and I'm like, all these things, but I forgot to use Ice Cast Shackles, and then I didn't use the Mortal Wounds on it. And I said something out loud. I was like, I forgot Shackles, because it was like after my turn that ended, and I was like, I forgot to do the Shackle Mortal Wounds on all your guys. And he's like, he didn't really say anything. He wasn't going to give it to me, so I was just like, but I expect that, because if I make a mistake, it's my mistake. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
and I always try to give benefit of the doubt to my opponent and let them do things like that, or at least do the roll off like Nick was talking about earlier. But it's really hard to then turn that into standing up for yourself and kind of defending your position a bit, because you don't want to come off as a dick. You don't want the other person to have a bad time. Right. And, for me personally, I always gave the benefit of the doubt. I let people do things and then expected to have it, reciprocated. Let them, if I forget something, let them do it.
Sure.
Or let me do it. And, not everybody will do that. But really, it took me getting slow played and turned into a meme for me to actually start standing up for myself when it came to shit like that. When it's obviously intentional, and they're doing it as a tactic, and it's just, it's kind of eye opening, really, to say at any point I could have been, making changes to make that game go faster, or at least calling, them on it, or involving a TO, and I didn't do any of that just because I didn't want to make a big stink. I didn't want to be the guy complaining, in the mid tables, oh, this guy thinks he's, hot shit and he's causing a big ruckus and whatnot. But I mean, really, I should have, because that game got to turn 2, and I lost because of it. So,
well, and you sit there and have a bad game. That's some bullshit. That's unfair on your part when you paid all that money to drive all the way out there.
Yep.
Hotel rooms, cost of the tournament, all the food, all the things, you're spending a few $100 to go and have a good time. So when you have to spend 2.5 hours with somebody and they're just being lame.
Yeah. Right.
Like, that sucks. So, I mean, you have every right as a player to call the other player on some bullshit. I usually try to do it in a way that's like jovial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like joking around with my opponent. But if that other person's not, maybe they don't have the social understanding.
Right.
I mean, which, that is common.
Happens. That happens, right? I mean, we have all sorts of different players here. We all know, Yeah. And I mean, and maybe, like you said, 95% of people, it's probably not purposeful. But that 5%,
they're
something needs to be said.
And they're part of that 95%.
Right. Well, and they're counting on you to be part of that 30% who's not going to say shit and is just going to keep their mouth shut. But then those guys aren't ever going to come to a tournament again. Yeah. Like that guy's going to ruin their time, and they're going to be like, no, competitive players are assholes. Because those are the people that are the whack players that no one wants to fucking play. It has nothing to do with lists or trying to be good at a game or, playing a tight game. Mm-hmm. It has everything to do with the attitude of the player, and if they're really there, like either if they're not there to basically have that social contract where we're here to have a good time.
Yeah.
Right.
In the end, we're all here to play a fucking game.
Yeah, for sure.
But so the ITC came up with some rules.
Yeah, they did.
Jason Horn was part of this, from what I hear.
Well, it was
Or at least
he
his
wasn't.
name.
But
He says he
was.
wasn't, but his name's on it.
Yeah, right.
He didn't want to take credit for anything.
It is. Damn it, Jason. You know, I figure since
Local lover boy.
I have a little bit of a medium here, and people listen to us, which is still mind-boggling. But you know, Jason did finally get me my plaques for 40K, so I'm off his back on that. So, Jason, if you're listening, I'm sorry for how much shit I gave you.
I'm not.
It was fun though.
It was good.
I mean, if you're taking your time on some shit, you deserve a little shit for it.
Right.
I mean, you know, you want to run a premier event, you premier about it, bro.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not done giving Jason shit ever.
I gave him a little bit today. I turned him into a meme. Well, Baxter helped me, but it's good. I'll send it to you guys later.
Nice.
So let's bullet point some of this ITC stuff.
So we'll probably be using some of this in our bigger tournaments for sure. There's a whole judging philosophy in here. It says it's mainly written for 40K rules, but there's a lot of stuff in here that is good for any game, any player. Anybody want to read this?
Which part?
What do you want us to read?
Let's skip the judging part because that's mainly for judges. Basically, the judge part says judges have the last word.
Yeah.
Try not to call a judge.
Well, and things, yeah, there's a few things that I like in the judging part, like the natural justice. You know, it's important not to penalize players unfairly by applying the letter of the rule when that would contravene the spirit of the intention of the rule. They used a lot of big words, didn't they? I might let Nick read this.
Yeah, right.
Enforcement. Judges are given full authority to issue penalties to a player when they violate the letter or spirit of the event's rules or the rules of the game. So judges they're the judge. They are the law.
Mm-hmm.
Like, listen to the judge. Like, if the judge comes over and says, this is the rule, then that's the fucking rule of the tournament. Like, and that's hard to take sometimes when you know you're fucking right.
Yeah, right. Because, like, the judge has the last word, whether he's wrong or not. He says, this is the ruling I'm making. You guys got to abide by it.
And it's funny, like, at AOS events, as a judge, how many times have you been called over? Like, I don't know. I might have been called over once at the last Realm of Rad, and all I said was, "Did you read your rule?" You know,
right?
And they read it, and it was fine. So
yeah, a lot of those times, like, at the last Iron Realms, me and Buck were doing, I think we only had like 5 or 6 called over, but they were FAQ rules that they couldn't find. I was like, "Oh yeah, it's right here," and I tell them real quick.
Or that time that I called you over and said, "Why is everyone playing the fucking mission wrong?"
Yeah, right. Actually.
Oh, badge of shame to me. I convinced my opponent that we were playing the mission right. Oh, damn it. So, what's after the judges portion? Spirit of the game?
The game. Mm-hmm. See, the following guidelines and codes of conduct exist to ensure that the intended spirit of the... Oh my god, I'm already fucking up.
I got you.
Intended spirit and intent of Warhammer hobby is maintained at all times.
Yeah, so, that's fun.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to know.
Yeah.
So basically telling me we need to enjoy ourselves. Don't take things too seriously. Don't be a punk bitch.
Yeah. Which is this stuff's not easy at top tables. Like, that's real easy to say to the middle tables who are just like, or the low tables who are there just to play around, like, or like just wanting to drink beer and have fun. Like, super easy just to enjoy the spirit of the game. We're pushing models around. But man, when you get to those top tables, I don't care what price support's on the line. It can be a fucking nothing, as we've seen at like Jason's events.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't give shit.
If you're a really salty player, ask Bam what it's like to be at a bottom table. Get really salty.
I was there that year.
Me too.
I played him first round that year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go listen to the first couple episodes of the Flying Monkey podcast, and you'll hear the story.
Yeah, isn't that episode 1?
I probably, yeah.
The Gary Busey.
It's a good story.
When Bam almost got banned from Iron Halo events.
So next is the game state.
Important stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Players must announce their intent to roll a dice and apply the outcome. Their opponent is responsible for listening. Any dice rolled without announced intent may be ruled as void by a present judge, and the player must re-roll it. So this is kind of pertinent to Andrew and I's situation. You announced intent, and then you quickly took it back, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, like in that moment, according to this, and this isn't like this was never stated beforehand. None of these rules really apply to that tournament, other than the kind of the unspoken. Like a lot of this is the unspoken stuff that we expect at a tournament, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And new players aren't going to know that. Like, I think a person like Drew's a really good player. He's been to 3 events now. So why would he be expected to know that? You know, I mean, I use him as an example. Like, a lot of guys haven't been to events yet. The AOS is fairly new. It's like a budding event scene, tournament scene, right? So you have a lot of people who have come into the hobby since a lot of the older players quit with fantasy.
Right.
That this is the stuff I think we all kind of like need to take into account and learn from. But
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I played people in 40K where they just roll dice. I'm like, what are you rolling? And you have to keep asking. I'm like, what was this for?
Yeah.
How many dice did you roll? Like they wouldn't let you know what they were doing. I'm like, man, can you just let me know? Can we communicate a little bit? So that's a big deal.
And I catch myself, whenever we've been playing, and we're on like turn 4 or 5, and I'm just like, I haven't said again, like, okay, I need 3s and 3s, but I'm usually like, all right, 3s. Oh, excuse me. 3s to hit, 3s to wound, -1 rend. This is all the things that need to be happening, and just keep communicating with but I'm usually talking to my opponent the whole time too. So by that time, we're usually like pretty much on the same page, and we're both calling each other on our dice. It's like, whoa, that was a 3. That was a whoa. Make sure you take out that other 2. That was a hit or that was a miss. So that kind of stuff. Intent is huge, though. I never really thought about intent much until I started playing in events a lot, because when I'm like moving all my things and I'm like, okay, my intent is that we're all 3 inches away. We have 10 minutes left in this game, so can we just say that that's what it is?
Right.
Because I think back to a game that Cody and I played where it was so smooth because we played each other a lot, but it was like we could call intent without having to be as precise.
Right.
Because we knew and we trusted that the other person was measuring right and things. There's been some players that I've played that I'd go back and I'm measuring like, hey man, you're half an inch off there. Sometimes that's hard to call out, but especially a newer player who I'm trying to help get tighter, I'll call it out more. But again, I try to do it in a way that's not being a dick about it.
Right. Yeah, I had a friend that he never plays tight at all. Like his movements were sloppy, his rolls were sloppy. He's like, what are you rolling for? What is that? You moved how far? Like, you have players that, you're 12 inches from the center and they have a 12-inch move, and all of a sudden they're rolling like an 8-inch charge. You're like, how do you have an 8-inch charge? You only moved 12. And you have to kind of call them out on them that way because they didn't move quite right.
Yeah, or the moving of a model, moving it back, and then moving it somewhere else, and suddenly they're able to get stuff. I mean, that's one of the common things that happens. And I've seen it both in newer players and then in veterans. And I'll bring it up to the new players and say, hey, you got to be really careful with what you're doing, because somebody else would call you on that, and then you're stuck doing that. But when I was at the Iron Halo this last year, I played a guy where all of a sudden he had like a 16-inch movement with some plague bearers, and like, how the hell did that happen? Right? It was my fault for not staring at his, at the table, but at the same time, who wants to do that the whole effing game? But
right, because we all make mistakes, right? I mean, in that game,
sure.
in that game against Drew, because I watched it on Twitch, so I watched myself do it. I went to move models, but I grabbed the wrong eels, and I started moving those, and I was like, but it was like, I think it was a pile-in move, and I thought he had started combat in a different unit. So then I was in the middle of thinking something else, so I just grabbed one of the models. But he called me on it and was like, "Hey, that's the wrong unit." And I was like, "Oh, my bad." And I put them back close as I could remember where they were. It didn't change a whole lot, but it was one of those moments where I accidentally moved my models, like that's a problem.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, when not to rag on Daylon too much, but in our first game we had ever played against each other, he had moved his turtle, and then moved it back and then moved it again, and then it was into something that I was like, that's not where it was. But it was like a friendly game at the shop, so I didn't rag on it much, But in a tight tournament game, I'm gonna be like, fuck no, that don't even fit there, dude. That's not where that was. It's like, it's crazy how much competitive shit changes it,
Yeah.
If we're playing for the win here, I'm gonna be a little tighter than I would be drinking some beer at the shop.
Right.
All right. Player, let's see, intent.
Some more intent. So we got not manipulating touch or interact with any models active in the game. That's a good one. Yeah, kind of. We're breaking up a little bit.
Oh, my computer just went dark for a half second. Sorry.
It's all right.
You're getting hacked, dude. You're getting watched.
Oh, jeez.
It's the Russian.
Damn Russians.
So I don't agree with this one. Dice that do not land on the playing surface, such as dice that land on the floor, do not count as for game purposes. I mean, if you call Jumanji as it's rolling off the table, you count that dice.
I do that all the time. If it's rolling off the table, I say count it.
Yeah.
I don't. I mean, dude, if my dice are cocked at all, and I do it on purpose because in my favor or against me, every time they're not where they're now, if they rolled off the game mat onto the table, that's one thing. If they roll on the floor, I'm not going to be like, oh, it's a 6, But
I've been making the intent to, like, sometimes I'll catch myself rolling at the back of the table. I'm like, wait, I need to roll these more towards the middle.
Sure.
And then be like, pick up the ones out. Like, do you see any others? And they'll be like, yeah, there's one. I'm like, okay.
I'd like to get a good dice tray because I know, rolling into a tray is probably the best way.
Oh,
that way
sure.
They purposely go there. I don't know. I'm always like, I have dice going everywhere. I try to roll them away from people's models.
Yeah, I've got one of those trays I picked up at the Citadel down in Grapevine.
Oh, yeah.
Really nice tray. I think part of the issue, though, is that a lot of times I keep it on my side and I'll roll it in there, and I didn't realize because when I was playing Dylan that Realm of Red in January, I was rolling on my side and he kept walking over. I was like, what the hell is he walking over for? And then I realized he was walking over to check my dice, which, I mean, totally okay with, but I didn't even think that he may not be able to see some of the dice when they're rolling. So that's something else you got to think about too. So I tried to put it more into the middle or somewhere he'd have an easier time seeing it. But that dice tray was clutch. I love it. Keeps it.
He's a pacer.
Or, getting cocked.
Dylan's a pacer too. He moves all the way around the table the whole time he's playing.
I was like, it's a little too early for this, buddy. Just sit down.
Let's chill out. But yeah, I mean, definitely making sure your opponent can see what you're rolling is super important because
absolutely
most people aren't cheating, but a few are trying or will do that fast dice bullshit on you, and it's like, dude, I saw you just picked up that 2. Like, come the fuck on, bro. And in an intense game, like, I'm sure I've done it, but like, you know what I mean? Like, you're rolling more, you roll again, and it's like, oh, I got rerolls, and it's like all of a sudden, the motherfucker has like all the rerolls, and you're like, dude, come the fuck on. And that's another thing that's real easy to do, dude. Cheating in this game is not hard.
Yeah.
Like, I roll up on you with Ideneth, and you don't know my fucking rules. I can tell you, like, my fucking kings give you all the rerolls, and if you're not gonna look it up, you're not gonna call me on it.
No, right.
So it's
tough.
Everything gets a -1 to hit. It's like, that's
what I said earlier. You need to, like, if you feel wrong, talk to the guy you were playing and be like, hey, man, why you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
If he denies it, talk to local TO, and they'll probably take care of it for you.
I mean, I would never be upset if someone called me on something and said, "Hey, are you sure that's what it does? What it says it does?" Well,
Right.
no. I mean, I've been wrong before, so I'm probably wrong this time. But let me check. It's not a big deal. Don't feel bad for asking somebody to double check or to see a rule or something. That's just part of the game.
Sure.
You got to learn what other armies do, and that's the only way you're going to do it.
Right.
So,
I mean, like that happened to me. Was it Drew? I think he came to me. I might have done it. I mean, I could have. I have some high anxiety when I come to playing, especially the top tables. He's like, how do you go roll 2s with Daughters of Cain? I'm like, I don't think you can. He's like, well, I think you were in the last turn. I was like, was I? I mean, tell me how I can make it up to you, because I was all about feeling bad. I was thinking about it. I was like, did I really do that? Because at the time, I mean, I don't know, anything's possible. But if I did, I mean, I felt like shit after he told me that. I was like, oh shit. I mean, I don't want to be that guy, But you gotta talk to your opponent for sure and be like, if you're wrong, say you're sorry. Be the big man about it for sure.
yeah.
Well, and I think a lot of it comes down to like the old "don't be an asshole" rule. Like, man, it's the social contract is so important that we're coming together to play this game. The rules of the tournament have helped write out that contract. Like, and then I think the code of conduct stuff is great as far as like this solidifies like a lot of the key points, that will help mitigate some of those problems. But
For sure.
really, when it comes down to it, man, be friendly to your opponent, be kind, like don't come in hot just because, and if you are coming in hot, just check yourself, like some self, realization here, people. if you don't really have that, maybe some meditation, get some fucking therapy, and then come back to the table.
Right. It only takes one person to really mess up a whole community.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is for sure.
And as an event organizer, that's what that's what we're trying to guard against, right? Is that
for sure?
Is because it's not true. I mean, it's the Facebook problem. Most people aren't fucking assholes when you're like face to face with them.
Right.
But man, and when you're on the other side and you don't get to like talk to that person, and that person is just some whack player that you don't know, and then all of a sudden the rumors start fucking buzzing about that person, and like all of a sudden he's hated in the community, and that whole game store over there is a bunch of assholes, and it's just probably not true. There might be one or two dudes that are fucking not fun to play against, but it's not all 30 of the dudes that hang out at that store.
Right. That's why you need to squash your beefs, man.
Yeah, fucking talk to each other, people. Come on.
All right.
I like this next part. You got to bring your stuff. Bring a copy of your book, or digital or printed, all requisite rules for his or her army. If a player cannot show a digital or printed confirmation of a rule, then they're considered wrong. Third-party lists, building applications, or unofficial printouts or rules are not considered official sources of information. Now that could, that's easier to do in AOS than 40K, I think. Like, we have official, list building things.
App,
right?
That has all the rules in it.
Two apps, really. I mean, there's the War Scroll Builder is an official thing. Like, War Scroll Builder and Azir, like, they both are great ways to build your list. And if they're wrong, it's not as much on you, right? Like,
right.
Especially as a new player. I mean, it's getting easier to come into AOS, like, and know where to find your rules.
Yeah.
I mean,
dude, like, I'm trying to get into 40K a little bit, and really how many books I need just to play a game. I'm like, are you seriously? I need all 3 chapter approves because there's stuff in each one that I need.
Yeah, that's
rules.
hard. Because we got
Plus an
General's
index.
Handbook, and that just kills everything else behind it, which is
Oh yeah,
or the FAQ comes out.
Yeah, but 8th edition was supposed to be so much simpler.
Man, I was so excited about 8th edition. I'm a 40K player, man. Like, I mean, that's what I've been doing since I was 12 years old. But I really had hope for 8th edition because I was so burnt out on 7th. Living in San Diego and playing 7th edition, those dudes were so. I mean, there's some hardcore 40K guys out there, and lots of them. And so I was just getting my ass kicked by everybody. And then 8th was coming, and I was like, all right, maybe this will even the playing field a little bit. And God, it just hasn't.
Yeah,
Not to
right.
rag on 40K too much, but I'm just not interested in competitive 40K right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Age of Sigmar.
Good stuff.
Is that what we're talking about on this podcast?
I don't know what we're talking about anymore.
All right.
Any measurement must be acknowledged by the opponent as accurate and accepted.
Yeah.
Once accepted, the measurement is considered to be the distance measured, regardless of what another measurement might yield. No player may move a unit without the benefit of a special rule back to its initial or alternate position after it has been placed without the permission of that player's opponent. A player that does that has committed a foul. So we haven't got into the whole like yellow card, red card thing yet, but
Yeah, we probably won't.
yeah, it's not really. I don't think it's pertinent to AOS right now.
No.
But
So,
yeah, I mean that
we're
goes,
growing, but
right. That goes back to the like don't move your shit and take back season and move it somewhere else.
Oh, this next one's my favorite.
Each player must endeavor to complete his or her turn in a timely and efficient manner. Any player found using a disproportionate amount of time, particularly if it provokes a tactical advantage, will have committed a foul. Yeah. So this is why I put on my tournaments like 2.5 hour rounds, dice down, get past turn 3. Because
yeah.
you should be fucking finishing Age of Sigmar games, people. Like, even if you have 200 models, you fucking better know how to play that army.
Yeah.
If you're coming to an event with a big ass fucking army, I don't care if you have to roll 300 dice. Like, that's on you, man.
It's
Don't
not
fucking
an excuse.
yeah. Don't bring that shit. Don't fucking don't blame how big your army is on why you're not finishing games, because it's up to you to make a, to make the moves. Because I've seen people with big armies finish games every time.
For sure. But I've yet to either finish a game early or be on turn 5 when the time's up. Yet to be there. And I've been playing, 70, 80 witches all year. Trying to move all that around. So, it's like, AOS is easy. It's fast. There's no way you shouldn't be able to finish games.
Two super, two big armies playing each other with a ton of combat right off the bat. Man, those can drag out. But honestly, man, shit dies in AOS for most part. 2 Nurgle players playing each other, you better just roll fucking dice, man. Just go fast. Right. But because some armies, man, all those, I was a little worried there at the end of first edition, because it was there was so much that was negatives to hit, and then with and re-rolling saves with Mystic Shield, or adding to your save, and then being able to re-roll it and all those things. I had blocks of 30 warriors that could save everything. So then both sides are rolling, huge bags of dice, and it's that could slow it down. And I see in 40K where that is a big problem, having to roll that many dice and then all the modifiers and all the things. But in Age of Sigmar, at this point, I haven't seen a lot that's still slow to play.
Yep. Now I like your rule. Make it past turn 3, you lose. That's a good rule.
It moves people. We had brand new players finishing their games. People who hadn't come to tournaments. I had one guy come up to me after the last tournament and say, "How do people play so fast?" I'm like, "Man, get good." I didn't know what to tell him other than you got to get reps with your army.
Yeah.
If you're coming to an event to do well, spend a couple of weeks ahead of time. I know everybody can't get in. I can't get in more than a couple of games every couple of weeks. I've been playing long enough, though, to kind of get a good understanding with my army before an event, But really, it's all about reps and keeping yourself in check, and just roll your dice. No slow play here, man. No slow play. I haven't met too many Age of Sigmar players who intentionally slow play.
Yeah. I'd agree with you.
And I've played in different metas too, so it's and I haven't heard, and you also don't hear that. You listen to guys in Australia, you listen to the Honest Wargamer guys in UK or any of those guys, this isn't a hot topic, right? Like slow play and Age of Sigmar.
They have big tournaments, and you don't hear them talk about slow play at all.
What else? The whole next part's about time. I think we just wore that out. If the judge calls for hard dice down, the game immediately ends. No further actions can result in the game state. Players willfully ignoring this have committed a foul. See, I mean, I think that comes back down to the judge. If the judge says something, it's the end. It's the end.
Yep.
And that's how I've always taken it. I've been doing this a long time now. So, I mean, they're the authority, and they're the ones running the event. And for a long time, I think events have been kind of pussyfooting around with some of this shit, and not like, it's like, yeah, but let me finish. And I'm like, well, I'm going to let you finish, but what about the other 40 people in the room? You know, they're Nick. Like, why am I supposed to let you finish your game? Just kidding. Your guys' game was really finish that game. You looked at me. You looked at me like, I'm gonna finish this game. Well, I mean, I was like,
it was tied up. We had to finish it.
Oh man. Oh yeah, I walked away from that table.
So it was fun though. I'm glad you let us. So moving on from there, we got lists. We don't have to worry about lists in Age of Sigmar because, I mean, we don't have like individual models per points. We have a unit per points.
There are, I mean, it's super easy for us to go through the list beforehand. That's why I like to ask for them. Not only that, I mean, we've been also like going over lists on the podcast, which has been super fun.
Oh yeah, I enjoy doing it.
And we've caught some shit. We're like, that's not quite right. You know, that's not really how that plays. That's too many spells here, or that's whatever, you know. But so it's easy to go over lists. But yeah, bringing your list to the tournament, I think, is something that a lot of people don't do that I think needs to be done.
I don't ever print out a list for RTTs. I usually just, here's my phone. You want to see it? You know, because it's on my phone.
Sure.
Like, I don't feel like printing paper. Toner's
and
expensive.
most people don't even look at them.
Yeah.
But I do. You know, like especially if it's like in important games, I want to know what the fuck you're doing, because you have something in there that you expect to beat me with, right? So there's a lot to be looking at, like, as to get better at tournaments. Like, you usually know what most armies do if you're pretty decent, if you're in the competitive scene.
And the thing I like to do, and I think it should be a thing for everybody. A lot of people like to hide what they're doing with their list. Like, ooh, I'm gonna keep this and get them with it.
Sure.
I go, hey, I want to explain what all my stuff does. Would you like to know? Sometimes they're like, no, I don't care. I just want to play because it's too much. But a lot of times, if you want me to explain what each thing does and what my kind of general strategy is, I'll tell you. I mean, I don't care.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's perfectly acceptable to ask. You know, some guys will start telling you everything their list does, and you're like, dude, like, we're gonna take 20 minutes here, and you're gonna try to explain the whole thing to me. So I don't expect my opponent to do that, but there is like a common courtesy. Like, if I ask you, like, hey, how does this work, or what's that combo there? Just spitting it out.
Does anything have infinite range? Can anything drop in?
Right. What's the movement on that dude?
Yeah, stuff like that. It's totally acceptable to say stuff like that.
Gotcha moments are some bullshit too.
Yeah.
Like, if you're winning on gotchas, is that because you're a good general, or is that because you found a loophole?
I mean, you'll run into somebody that knows your gotcha, and you'll lose.
Oh yeah.
It's guaranteed.
Well, I mean, I mean, I didn't have to a new player. I mean, it's full of gotchas because it plays different, you know. Or if you didn't know anything about Night Haunt, you roll up to them and they're like, "Oh, by the way, I ignore all rend with everything," and it's like, "Oh fuck, I didn't know that."
My rule of thumb, I'm playing Daughters of Cain. I'll be like, "See this cauldron here? It does a lot. You need to kill it."
Yeah, right.
So, but anyway,
well, and I don't think that you have to go through and like point out target priority for people, because that's part of knowing. But also, I mean, yeah, there is it's all these fuzzy lines of like what's acceptable and what's unacceptable. But let's see. Stratagems don't matter.
Yep, right.
Ability is good.
Tools.
Yeah, bring your own shit.
I like. They're just like, hey, motherfuckers, Bring your shit.
Bring your shit.
Get over it.
Get your fucking... Look, every tournament, and I'm going to forget it next time, I bring 2 fucking measuring tapes. I bring a bag full of fucking dice. I have like 40 of those little fucking measurement markers. Mm-hmm. I got all this extra shit. I got super glue. I've got fucking, all my own models. There's like, I have my books. You've got to think about these things in advance. And, and like I said, I'm probably going to forget something next time and be like, hey, who's got a tape measure?
You'll forget your dice, like I did that one tournament.
Dude, I forgot my demons at the fucking slobber knocker. Had to fucking drive home. But yeah, I mean, and I've been to tournaments where it's like, you pull up to the table and the guy has like 10 dice and you're like, what? You're going to roll orcs with 10 dice?
Oh.
Like, what are you fucking doing, dude? Like, have this shit thought out. Like, if you're rolling that many dice, you need some dice cubes and know exactly how many dice you have, Mm-hmm. And I think it's something that a new player could learn. Like, think about ahead of time. This unit is going to pump out 50 plus, you're going to have to roll 50 plus dice. Have those dice ready, because whenever you charge, don't be counting all your fucking dice right now, like 20 minutes in. I don't want to sit here and wait on that. I mean, that's something that could speed you up.
Even if you don't have enough dice to roll it all in one, or it would be cumbersome to do so,
sure.
Roll, 15, 20 attacks to hit and pick up your successes and then go ahead and roll to wound, and then your opponent can roll, and then you just keep going back and forth like that. It does speed it up. It's slower than being able to do it all at once, but it's better than, I hit with these. All right, let me scoop all these up, and now I hit with all these. Let me scoop these up, and let me hit with these. And it's, you go and do 50 hits that way, and then you're taking 5-10 minutes, and you could have just done it bang 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 really quick. So there are ways to, even if you don't have the appropriate amount of dice, to speed it up.
Sure. Well, and then there's like, we're all super like superstitious about our dice, right? Like,
yeah, we got probably 8 sets of dice in my backpack, and the second they go cold, they go back in the backpack and new ones come.
And it's like my monkey dice always roll better than the other ones. Or I have these table war dice that like every time they're gonna roll that 6, and I'm just like, maybe they're lopsided, but I always try
to win like other clubs' dice. That way I roll the dice against them. Like any priority roll, I'm rolling against them with their dice. Like,
I know. Let's do this. I want to go down to San Antonio and get some of those Slambo dice, dude.
Those are pretty nice dice.
Yeah, that's another thing. Those, the markers, like where it's on a 6 or sometimes it's on a 1 because the printer's an idiot. Yeah. But show your opponent, like all of my dice that have like a picture on them are the 6s. But even still, like if I roll a 6, I show them like, hey, look, the other side's a 1. That's a 6. Just it's one of those things that's like that can get real shady when someone pulls out a bunch of different kinds of dice and it's like, some of them are 1s and some are 6s, the symbol. But
I know somebody who does that.
Nick.
What? I actually gave all those dice to Jeff, so I don't have any 1s dice.
Or like, and they'll roll them together too, and that's the worst thing. Like, is that a 6 or a 1? It's they're all mixed in, and you don't. Oh, they're a 6 this time, or I need 1s this time, so they're 1s now. It's like, hold up.
Well, and this is why something like those Nurgle dice come to be such an annoying thing, because it's hard to read them. It's not that they're cool looking, like. Sure, like
I don't think they roll well. Personally,
maybe I haven't used them. I don't know, but I know that they don't. It's hard to tell what's on them. The Zinch dice too. Like use those for your fucking markers, man. Like,
well, like the Dominant Gain dice has a symbol on both the 1 and the 6.
No, that's annoying.
They were annoying. They got annoying for me even, so I switched them out.
Well, I have like 3 or 4 like clear dice that are just the pips are white, and man. Every time I accidentally pick those up, I throw those back in the bag because it's like, man, I'm sorry I used that. Like, I know that's hard to see. Like, I used it, one of them in one of my games in Wichita, and the guy was like, what was that? Was that a 4? I was like, no, it was a 3, but I hit on 3. It doesn't matter, but here, I'm going to just get rid of that die.
Right.
Because those dice that are hard to read, because you want your opponent to be just a clear understanding. Just cut out some of the bullshit.
Mhm.
Dice are important.
For sure.
Like, I don't like to roll little dice. I always want like normal size or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
Another thing I do on the tools section is the rulers that the starter sets come with.
Mm-hmm.
Like I think Charles showed me this, where you cut off the last 3 inches, and then you have a 1 through 9, and then a 3-inch ruler. So I basically have my 9-inch and a 3-inch now for my deep strikes and my 3 inches away. It's really handy.
Yeah, that's super nice. I've seen some really tight players use those a lot in setting, especially for setting up and stuff. They're super handy.
Yeah.
You know, and it is sometimes, if you're traveling, it's hard to carry all this shit with you. But a lot of those things, I mean, that's why I have like a ton of those 3-inch markers. I mean, those things fit in my dice bag.
Yep.
Measuring instruments must be accurate. There have been found like some measuring tapes that have been inaccurate, which that can be annoying.
Sure.
Half-inch off or whatever. We don't use clocks. Calling judges.
I think we already kind of went over all that.
Yeah.
It's okay to call a judge. It's not a big deal, but
yeah,
don't waste the guy's time.
Yeah, make sure it's for something. Read your rules, man. It really a lot of that comes down to reading rules in Age of Sigmar. And sometimes the rules are a little bit confusing, right? I mean, it's GW. They're not the best. Historically, they're not the best at like writing just a plain rule that makes a lot of sense.
One thing that I do is I memorize the FAQs, because they're the rules that are most abused, more than likely.
Mm-hmm.
So if you just memorize most of the FAQ, you'll be good.
And now that they're coming out like more frequently,
right?
Frequently asked questions. It's a little easier because they're all in one place.
Mm-hmm.
They, everybody kind of gets to know them a little more. They're talked about on all the podcasts. Like, you can make sure and know them. But new player coming into it, they play in their insulated environment. Like, maybe they haven't looked at the facts. Maybe they don't even know, So it's okay also to pull out the fact and be like, hey, this is how this goes now. There's been multiple times. What is it? Death stuff. Archon the Black, his deal. Like, how does this actually work?
I think that's
penalties doesn't matter. Spirit of the game. The Warhammer hobby is primarily a means for individuals to enjoy their time. Interpersonal actions designed to lessen this enjoyment are not within the spirit of the game.
Booyah.
Goes back to just don't be an asshole.
Yeah. Who are all these people? Contributors: Reese Robbins, John Weiermuller. You want to read these? Adam Solis, Chris Morgan.
Just give him credit where credit's due.
Daniel Rees, Travis Simpson, Matt Root, Tom Hegstrom-Oki. Jason
So
Warren.
is Scott trying to make one for like AOS? That's the one we need to get on, is Scott Reed, and he's a good guy to probably talk to about ITC and kind of debunk some of the stigma about it.
It's so great. I mean, Scott is such a nice dude. Just
Dude,
all around good guy.
Yeah, he flew down from San Diego just to play in our little tournament in Bartlesville. I was like, man, that's a good guy.
He taught me how to play Age of Sigmar, It was so crazy. I mean, I put a thing on Facebook in one of the San Diego chats and was like, I want to learn this game. Who wants to teach me? And he's like, oh, you can come to my house. And he invited me to his house and showed me his stuff. I ended up actually painting the outside of his house. But
nice.
He's just like a solid cat. And, he runs all these competitive events, but isn't like a super competitive guy himself as far as he's done pretty good in some tournaments, but he just loves to play the game. I don't remember what he brought. What did he bring to?
It was Stormcast.
Yeah, he brought a Stormcast list, but it wasn't
no
a shit kicking Stormcast list. I mean, he comes to play the game and meet people and grow the community, and that's what he's about. So it's funny when I hear all these Age of Sigmar people talk about how they hate the ITC, and he's kind of the guy on the Sigmar side promoting it, you know?
Yeah, right.
And I'm like, well, Scott's just like a good dude. Like, none of this is like ill-intended, you know?
Mm-hmm. I'd like to get Scott on. I mean, he's busy with the LVO right now, but I think we're going to try to get him on shortly after. Talk about
Yeah,
it.
that'd be cool. That
So,
would be cool.
Let's,
Oh.
Go ahead, man.
No, I was just gonna real quick about ITC. I think a lot of it is just inexperience with it. You know, it did a pretty remarkable thing for 40K. Because I mean, how many more tournaments popped up? How many more small tournaments popped up because of it? Because something mattered, right? And all it is just a rank. I mean, unless you're winning the whole thing, you're not really getting anything. And so it promotes, the tournament scene and getting people out there and meeting new people. I would have met half of you motherfuckers if I didn't get out of my shell and go play in a tournament. So
right.
I mean, that's what it's about. If you want to know what ITC is, that's what I would say it is.
I mean, I think ITC is the reason we have such a large following in this Midwest area.
Yeah.
I mean,
for sure.
Me and Buck were trying to just get it going for the longest time, and like, well, let's do some ITC stuff, get a team going, and do a little bit, and that's when everything's actually started growing.
Well, and it's what ITC did for 40K was kept it competitive because 40K didn't have good missions. So there's a lot more rules to the 40K ITC stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I was one of the haters of ITC for the longest time for 40K because, I mean, they kept changing the rules, being rules people when they shouldn't have been. Now they're not at all. Yeah. So it all works out. But yeah,
well, they still have their own missions and their own style of play, but they're also hooked up with GW. So, there's that. But in Age of Sigmar, they don't affect the rules. There aren't rules added to. There's no extras to the mission unless you want there to be, and a lot of people at their tournaments do that anyway.
Yeah.
With secondaries and stuff. And now GW came out with their hidden agendas, which is super helpful. And I think what the Iron Realms, we're going to have a few different hidden secret objectives and different. You're right in that stuff.
Yeah.
But
people I think should be making their own tournament packets anyway with their own rules and not worry about anybody else. Oh yeah, I mean, you want it to have a lot of flavor.
Right. Well, and like I said, I wasn't a fantasy player, so I don't know how things were, And I know that it was always a lot different than 40K. And there's a lot more invested in sportsmanship, in hobby, than the 40K has been in the past.
Yeah.
And probably still is.
Cool.
But I don't know how, sportsmanship is another thing that I'm not convinced about it. I heard the Ever-Chosen guys talking about, it's a big part of winning a tournament is sports and hobby. And it's we definitely up here care more about the best general. So.
Well, all right. Well, let's go into events real quick. 2 weeks. There is the where's it at? DZ.
New World.
My bad. New World is having an Age of Sigmar tournament. All the Sparkle Motion guys are going to go down there, support that. I'm going to try to go. My kid has a basketball tournament that week. If he loses soon enough, I'll be able to go. If not, I will not.
Is that February 9th or is that the 16th?
The 9th.
Mm-hmm.
The 9th. Yeah, if I'm not in Houston, I'll try to make that one.
Cool.
Yeah, I'd like to see a bunch of people get to that. I'm leaving for San Diego tomorrow afternoon, so I will be out on that one.
And then after that, we have the Iron Realms. Hello. We have a bunch of announcements for that. Well, not a bunch, but a few.
A few announcements.
Mm-hmm.
So one of those is that we got a T-shirt design and the printer ready. So if you buy a ticket before March 6th, then you will get a T-shirt with your ticket. So get your tickets, folks.
It's a $15 T-shirt, man. That's half off your ticket right now.
And they are sweet design. That is really awesome.
Yeah. Shout outs to Chase Lehman, right?
Yeah.
For doing our design for us. Really
He played in the Realm of Rad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I played him second round. Really cool dude.
He's building a Skaven army right now.
Nice.
He was playing Iron Jaws, wasn't
Yeah, I think he's done with Iron Jaws. He's gonna play some Skaven. He wants to play Rats.
So, what was the other thing we were gonna say? We had something else. We got we'll go over sponsors in another episode. We have tons of sponsors already.
We got tons of sponsors. There's some GW, maybe? No. Wait. I forget what. I don't know. Mike has a list. There's some stuff printed on the shirt.
Yeah, right.
On the back of the shirt.
I think Scale 75 was one of them, but yeah.
Scale 75, yeah. They hooked up Realm Rad. Their paint's awesome. Then, yeah, we'll go over those stuff later. Let me get that locked down for sure.
So, and then after that, we have the Flying Monkey Con. Eric, you want to say something about that? Oh, yeah, that was Eric.
He's in some glory hole.
So anyway, guys, thanks for podcasting with me. Oh wait, we got more.
I want to shout out to. There's a couple of hobby events coming to Edmond Unplugged. They're doing Scale 75 guys going to come up and do a painting seminar.
What?
On March. Let me pull it up. Into the podcast, gonna waste some time. What was I saying? Edmond Unplugged. I believe it's May 1st.
May 1st?
May 1st.
That's a Wednesday.
Oh,
maybe not.
Sucks.
Not on a Wednesday. Surely not.
How about you get your facts right next time?
What are facts? The FAQs?
Are they alternative facts?
Probably. Dude, my phone's being so slow. I'm on Skype. Well, they're doing. Look at Edmond Unplugged site. They're doing the Scale 75 hobby day. Like basically, he's gonna come up and teach a class. I think that one's $100.
No.
He does some amazing.
Yeah, I mean it looks really
amazing
good,
brushwork. Yeah, but then after that, there's also CK Studios is coming to do an airbrush class, Airbrush 101.
Yeah,
I've heard nothing but good things. It's $250, but the guys that have walked away from those things have really, you walk away with a complete understanding of how to use an airbrush. And I mean, if you're really getting serious about hobby, then I think I've heard people who have been using airbrush for years, like come away from that with like a tremendous amount of knowledge and understanding of what they're actually doing with it, you know? Because it's a basics class. Yeah, I'm really interested. I got to see how, the next couple of months go financially, but it's definitely a commitment at $250, but
sure. That's $2 of Vanguard, sir.
Well, then you're fucking fine. You're like, whatever. I'll just get another bonus. So those are also, events that I really want to promote is whenever, also locally in Oklahoma City, if you're, I believe New World guys play all weekend. There's some Age of Sigmar going up there, 40K too, but I'd like to see them get back into more tournament stuff. So I know at the end of the year last year, they kind of waned off with the Age of Sigmar stuff, but then Edmond Unplugged, they play on Tuesday nights every week and Sundays, and probably I think Thursday they do a hobby day, and then DZ Games plays on Sunday nights or Sunday afternoons, and then Game Face in Yukon, I believe they're doing Sundays as well. But so all over the city, there's Age of Sigmar being played. Yeah. So
Bartlesville gets together whenever me and Buck want to play.
So jealous.
If you're in Bartlesville area, get a hold of Nick or Buck.
Yeah. We're gonna try to get our community going again. It's just it pootered out there for a little bit, and it's been going to so many events. I need to start getting my community up.
Yeah,
and I believe
Go.
Oh, go ahead.
Okay, we had a couple guys move from Bartlesville, and then I feel like Tom's been on call literally 24/7, 365 since the Iron Realms.
Yeah, I think he moved into the hospital. So
Yeah.
He's one of my favorite guys I've ever played. I'd really like to see him come back.
You know, every time I go to a tournament, I go, "Hey, you want to go to this tournament with me?" And he's like, "Well, let me check my schedule." I was like, "No, I gotta work." I'm like, well, damn it! Like every time.
So, and Wichita, they're probably going to have an event in March, is what I thought I heard him buzzing about. So
I think everyone was busy in February. So
yeah, we'll talk about that whenever we hear more.
Yeah.
So, and War Games Con put their tickets on sale.
Nice.
So
I want to go to Austin.
Down in Austin. So it's supposed to be
in August.
I believe so.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, Jonathan Napick runs that one, the ever-chosen.
He's a straight shooter.
That's what he says. We'll see. But he gets really bad sportsmanship votes. But apparently he's the best general at Citadel, which probably doesn't mean much. I mean, have you ever played at a GW store? So come on.
Yeah, they only accept so many people. You know, you're bad.
So okay,
all right,
we
guys.
can end it now.
All right, guys. It's good talking with you. We'll talk to you next time.
See ya, fuck boys. That's for you, Eric.
Later.